Welcome back to the Catnip Podcast. My name is Grace and today is Friday, April 20th. It is not March like I said last week in the beginning of the episode. It is April. This is a podcast about knitting and baking and books and cats and lots of crafty stuff, but knitting specifically because that is what I love to do the most. I have a pretty full episode for you guys this week, which is very exciting. I have some knitting, I have some books, I have some baking, I think that's it. Future knitting, but that can fall into knitting. So there's kind of a lot to talk about, so we should probably get into this episode. So if you'd like to follow me on any of my social medias, there's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry, and all of those will be linked in the show notes, or wherever you are, they'll be linked down below. I am most active on Instagram if you'd like to follow me on there, but obviously all the other social medias are available if you'd like to follow me on those as well. So, without further ado, if you'd like to get something tasty to drink, or something to snack on, or something to craft on, or all of the above, I have coffee today, switching things up, because why not? And come back and join me for some crafty chat. So first off, I'm wearing something knitted today. That is very exciting. I am wearing something lighter because it is a little bit warm today. This is an infinity cowl. It's like the monster chevron cowl, I believe. And I knit it forever ago out of some hand spun that I have. And I just really love it. I don't remember the fiber that I used, where that came from, but yes, I just really love it a lot. This is my favorite area in particular. It's very easy to knit. I knit it very quickly, and then I think this was also like I didn't not know how to do the Kitchener stitch, but I didn't know how to do it in like pattern. So this was a very good learning experience. I actually don't remember where the join is, but you don't want to watch me look for the join, that is for sure. But yes, I really enjoyed this pattern. I have a lot of hand spun that I would like to knit up at some point, but there's just so many things to knit currently and in the future, and there's so many things to knit. But I would like to make another one of these because I think it is a great staple, and it's long enough that you can wrap it around twice if you want to, and that also looks super cute. Now it's caught in my hair, but I like it, the one, and that's messed up my hair, but that's okay because you guys get the general idea. You can wrap it once, you can wrap it twice, whatever suits your fancy. I think it's probably also very customizable, so if you want to make it longer and make it super wide, do whatever you want to do. You can figure out the math, I'm sure. Very basic. I don't remember if it's a paid-for pattern or not, but it'll be linked in the show notes, so don't worry. Forget to mention at the top of the episode, with all the various social media commentary, that all the things that I will be talking about will be in the show notes, which will be linked on my blog, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to rewind and hear what I say and then go search it yourself. You can go to my blog and just click a link I have provided for you. So, cool stuff. So knitting this week, I was very productive. It just doesn't feel like a whole lot, so I'm not going to be discouraged about that. But I did get a lot done, considering. First off, last week I told you guys that we were going to go to an Astros game to celebrate my mom's birthday, which was super fun. We had a blast. They were giving out George Springer, who is one of the Astros baseball players. If you didn't know, I wouldn't have known that, so I'm sharing that information with you if you don't know. They were giving out George Springer bobbleheads, which was super cool, so we all got one. So that was super fun. I also mentioned last week that I plan to get a lot of knitting done, and I made the joke that I might not do it. I made the joke that I might finish a sleeve. I didn't do either one of those. I did knit a lot, but I didn't finish the sleeve, so I'm not going to show it to you, and you can see how much progress I got done during a baseball game. I also forgot to mention, now that I'm talking about this, what exactly, something else I'm going to talk about in a minute, what I was working on, and, ooh, stitches are coming off. So this is the second sleeve for the Lady Mademoiselle Dandelion Cardigan by along.avec.anna. And here is my second sleeve. So I literally cast on in the car on the way to Minute Maid Park where the baseball game was, and knit a couple rows in the car because it was a bit of a drive, and then the rest I knit there during the baseball game. I always enjoy bringing knitting to sporting events like that where it's acceptable and I know that it'll be fine if I do. I always think it's funny because when you go through security, if there is security there and they look in their bag, or their bag, if they look in your bag and they see knitting there, usually I'll get a comment, and it's always very funny. The one I got about this was, so you're going to be knitting during this baseball game, and I was like, of course I'll be knitting. And he was like, so what if people start the wave? Are you going to stand up and do the wave with them, or are you just gonna sit down or stay seated and keep on knitting? And I was like, well, I'll probably stand up, but I'll probably have my knitting in my hand, so I'll be doing both at the same time. Which we both had a laugh about that. I thought that was very entertaining. So it's always nice when security people are in good moods because it's just going through security is always stressful. So that was not relevant to the sleeve that I'm knitting. But yes, so I am knitting with Cascade 220 fingering, and I wish it would focus on the yarn and not my face, in the colorway Indigo Frost Heather, in those words in some kind of order. So it looks amazing. I am loving it so far. Like I said, this is my second sleeve. Here's my first sleeve. So wonderful. And the body of the cardigan is in the bag right here, and I will show it to you. This is a bottom-up cardigan with these little dandelion motif stitches, which I think is super cute. Very easy. Looks complicated, but very easy. And so I have a lot to go, obviously. And then you join the sleeves, and then you knit the yoke and all that jazz. I'm loving it. I love it. I am so excited to wear it. I'm super excited to pick out buttons for it. I think it'll be amazing. I don't know what kind of buttons I want. Decisions. But I am a long way from picking out buttons, so I have plenty of time to decide what I want to do. So yes, this is the Lady Mademoiselle Dandelion Cardigan by along.avec.anna. It'll be linked in the show notes. I do have a Ravelry page that will also be linked if you'd like to see what my progress has been over the past couple of weeks. So you can check out everything there. Secondly, knitting-wise, I, for some reason, was just super inspired this week, or in like a mood that was like, I want to read a lot, I need knitting to go with that reading. What do I knit on? I could have knit on that sleeve, but I didn't. Because I really just wanted to knit on an old project and get that done, because I also know that I might be using these needles soon, or needing these needles soon, so that was also motivating me. And so both of those things were kind of like pushing each other along. Like I wanted to knit on something mindless, and I also wanted to read, and I wanted to do both at the same time. So does that make sense? Both were encouraging each other, those two things to happen. Hopefully that made sense. Anyway, so I have been working on my Find Your Fade by Andrea Mowry. I am very close. I am on color maybe F. E or F. I don't remember which one. Out of like G or H. I don't remember. Because I think I actually have an extra color in the bag that I've been carrying it around in, so I've been like fooling myself looking in the bag and being like, oh, I have 2 colors left. But the pattern actually, there's only 1 color left. So, we'll see. I don't know if I'll have both colors. I don't know, because there's a potential other fade in my future, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yes, so this is what I have been, I got a lot done this week. I hadn't started this plain portion up here. I had just ended at the striping section. So it's a fair amount. I knit most of that in, or actually I think I knit all of it in one evening, so it's not like I've been working on it all week. But, because it has been busy. But I did get some done. That's something. I've made progress. I think I have maybe 5 or 6 more like 2-row repeats of this before I start on the lace section for this color. So that's exciting. There's just something so comforting about garter stitch and reading. I don't know what it is. I just find so much comfort and like such calmness and soothingness in knitting garter stitch or stockinette, just mindless knitting while I'm reading something that I can be like fully immersed in and just like, ah. And then you have the sound of the knitting needles, and then you have like reading music in the background if you're into that, because I am. It's just so wonderful. I just love that so much. Can you tell I love it? Because I really do. So I have been really enjoying that the past couple of nights that I've been able to do that. Yes. Let me figure out. This thing is massive. This is like so large. I'm thinking the only thing I can probably compare it to, size-wise, if you've knit any of Stephen West's patterns, usually his patterns end up massive as well, which that kind of reminds me of the size. I'm gonna go away for a minute so I can show you this. It's gonna cover up the whole screen. But, so, here I am. And then we go this way, and we fade, and we fade, and we fade, ooh, and we fade, and we fade, and then we're done. So, lots of colors. I'm super happy with how this is turning out. Like I've said in the past when I've talked about this before, sometimes I'll love it, sometimes I'll hate it, sometimes I'll be like, eh, sometimes I'll be like, oh my goodness, I love it, like right now. I'm very excited about this currently. I think this is super awesome. I love my colors. I love my fade. I am just very happy with it. So I'm also very excited to get it off my needles because it's been on my needles for more than a year. So it's time to finish it. So I will link my Ravelry project page. I believe I have my yarns listed on my page. If not, I am sorry. That is something that I want to work on in the future. Birdie is eating some food and we can hear the crackling of his chewing. Fun times. So yes, I'm very excited to finish this. I also just really want to wrap up in it because it's just so wonderful. This is a thumbnail if I have ever seen one. It's a knitting podcast thumbnail. So another thing, I worked on it a lot yesterday while I was not reading because my mom invited me over to their house to go through some of my stuff in my room, specifically my desk because it was full of stuff, which we did and was very successful, so that was wonderful. But we also watched Victoria, the TV show, which I have never seen before, so we watched the first episode. My mom has seen all of it, I believe, or almost all of it, or whatever. So, and we got to knit together, which was super fun. It's been a while since we had been able to like actually sit down together and knit together and watch something, which is what we used to do when I was living at home. So that was super fun and I really enjoyed that and I got a lot done. How many ways, how many angles can I hold this up and show it to you guys because it's just so big. So that is it for current knitting, and now we're going to move into future knitting because who doesn't love a good future knit? That would be me. That being said, it is not like I have 10 plus projects sitting in my living room that are waiting to be finished, and yarn for a sweater that's currently in the mail and on its way here. So, but here's the thing. If I use stash for both of these things, then it's all okay, right? Then it's fine. That is my justification for wanting to cast on more things. Both of them are shawls. You can never have too many shawls, that is my belief, especially if you are like super inspired and just really want to make the shawls. If it keeps calling to you, if you dream about it, which I actually have dreamt about knitting things before, which was a sign that I needed to make them, and then I did. Side note, if you dream about them, if you can't stop thinking about them, if you see color combinations in random things like flowers along the side of the road, or book covers, or leaves, fruit, I don't know. If you see color combinations anywhere and you're like, ooh, that would be beautiful for this particular shawl that I really want to make, but I haven't decided because I have a lot of project on the needles and I just don't know if I should cast it on. If you are constantly inspired to make this shawl that you cannot stop thinking about, you should make it. Forget about all the other projects that you have on the needles. They don't need some love right now. You're not thinking about them. You're thinking about this new shawl that you're like, wow, I can't stop thinking about it. I should make it. Do that, because that's just, yes, you should. It's, your creative mind is calling you to make something, and you should follow that calling. That was super random, but I think it's kind of important. So, know what makes you happy. So I have both of these shawls pulled up on my computer, and I'm going to show you them on my computer like I did last week, because that is the good podcaster that I am. One of them is by Stephen West, and the other one is by Leslie Ann Robinson. I believe that is correct, but I'm going to look it up in just a minute so I have it and I can get it correct. I'm going to talk about the Stephen West one first. It is a recent publication of his. I believe it is called Fading Waves. I was right. Go me. By Stephen West. It is... He has a DK weight version and then he has a fingering weight version. And because Houston is Houston and hot is hot, I'm going to probably be making the fingering weight version. Which is very exciting. Let me show you a picture of it. I'm just so distracted by how pretty it is. It's got a lot of short rows. It kind of reminds me of the Color Affection shawl by Vera Valimaki. So if you've made one of those, I would assume this would be very similar to this. But this is what it looks like. And it seems very large and perfect for stash yarn, and particularly speckled yarn, and just things that I have not decided what I want to do with yet. So I think that is super pretty. I really want to make one. I keep thinking about it, and I think that is a sign that I should make it. So I just don't know when I'm going to make it. It's knit on a size 7. I don't know how much yardage the fingering weight version takes, but it's somewhere in the thousands, I believe. I would assume that it says here on the, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my computer, but it says here that there were kits at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, so if you went there, very sadly I did not go because that is just not practical right now, but that's okay. Someday in the future I would love to go, but I guess he was selling kits there. Oh, it says the fingering weight, there are 6 sections instead of 3 or 5, excuse me. I can read. I had not noticed this before, but we're learning things every day. While we're recording here on this podcast, I'm learning things. So yes, the fingering weight version has 6 sections of the little short rows, and the DK weight has 5 sections. Not a big difference. And then I think it has a folded picot hem edging or work an I-cord bind off. So that will be very time consuming, but it'll be beautiful. So that is super exciting. I cannot stop thinking about it. I really want to make it very badly. But fun fact, the needles I would probably be using are the ones that I'm working on with my Find Your Fade. Finding the needles for my Find Your Fade are the needles that I would need for The Fading Waves by Stephen West. So, I'm so close to being done. I am so close to being done. Gotta do that. Gotta do that. Then I can read more, and it's just a win-win situation. So, that is the first shawl that I cannot stop thinking about. The second one is called Rain Falls by Leslie Ann Robinson. I got that right. Yay. I believe she actually lives in the Houston area. I am not sure where exactly in Houston she lives, but that's super cool that she lives in the same place that I do, generally, in Houston. In Texas, to be more general. So that is super awesome. This shawl is gorgeous. It's another fading shawl, so good stash busting. As we can see, I have good stash to bust here for fades. So that's super special. It's got a little bit of brioche. It's gorgeous. And I think there's also slip stitches. Seed stitch. 2-color seed stitch. Which I just love the look of. It's just so gorgeous. But it also has a very neat story. So it's called Rain Falls, and you might hear that and be like, oh cool, rain is falling. But she started working on it as Harvey was hitting Houston, which I don't know, it's just very special because like I have family here in Houston. My in-laws, they flooded. They're moving back into their house today, which is incredible, so super exciting. We're going to be celebrating with them tonight. But they have been out of their house since Harvey hit back in August. I think it was August. They've been out of their house for a while. So Harvey's impact on Houston was absolutely devastating, and it's cool and special to have something that was designed while that was going on, and you can have like a memento or like a keepsake that was like, Harvey happened, but Houston recovered. It was devastating, but Houston recovered, and I can make this shawl that is like inspired by Harvey. Does that make sense? I don't know. I just think it's super cool. Because of that reason, it just motivates me more to make it. Like, it's so special. I really like it. And even though we were not currently living in Houston when Harvey hit, we were still living in Dallas. Obviously, we both have family here, and so we were dealing with the stress of Harvey very far away. We didn't actually have to deal with Harvey itself, which was good, but we had family that was dealing with it, so we were dealing with it secondhand. I don't know, does that make sense? Anyway, so Leslie, she has on the project page, it will be linked in the show notes, so don't worry. On the project page, she has her story written about it, which I think is super cool, so I recommend that you go and take a look at it and read her story, why she designed it. It's really cool. It's cool to me. I don't know if that is meaningful to you. It's fine if it's not, but I think it's very meaningful to me, and I would really like to make one at some point. So, good stash. Fun times to fade. Again, the knitting needles that I want to use, the ones that I would prefer to use, are in my Find Your Fade. So, we have some problems. Maybe I should go get more knitting needles. That is probably the solution to this predicament that we have. But, so yes. So that is it for knitting that I want to talk about. We do have yarn for the sweater that I talked about last week, the Mum's Popcorn Bomber cardigan. The yarn is still in the mail, which was super unfortunate. I was expecting the yarn to get here sometime at the beginning of the week, but it didn't. So we're hoping it will arrive today at my mom's house. So hopefully we'll be able to cast that on sometime soon. Again, needles are being used, so you gotta finish stuff and or find needles that might be tucked away somewhere, which they probably are. So gotta go digging in some boxes that have not yet been unpacked. There's one right over here that you can't see, but I can see, that I know is full of knitting stuff. So there are probably needles in there. So yes, that is super exciting. That is the one that will be steeked. So, yes, I mentioned this last week, if you have any experience with any kind of steeking, or if you have tutorials that you found super helpful, or just encouraging words for steeking for the first time, because we've never done that before and it's a little terrifying. I appreciate the comment that I got last week about steeking for the first time. It was very encouraging. It was from Shauna Stitches, and she said that the steeking tutorial by Mina Phillips was super, super helpful, so I'll definitely be checking that out. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. We'll probably be practicing before we actually steek on the sweater, so that's kind of important, because that would be devastating to not practice beforehand, steek for the first time on a sweater that you had picked out special yarn for, and knit the entire thing, and then try to steek it, failed, and messed it all up. That would be, there would probably be tears. Probably a lot of tears. So to prevent that from happening, we will practice. Yes, practicing is important. So yes, the yarn is in the mail. Hopefully it will arrive today, so we can start on that sometime soon. So fun times are ahead. So next up, I will talk about some baking, because yay baking. This past week I made some banana bread that was incredible. So good. I don't know, there's something very comforting about banana bread. Especially when it has chocolate chips. So good. This particular recipe did not have chocolate chips, but I know you could probably add it in if you wanted to. So probably the next time that I make this recipe, I might throw those in just for fun. But it is not in the recipe necessarily. I do not remember where I got this recipe from, but I do remember the name of this recipe, so that's the most important. It is the brown butter banana bread. If you love alliteration, that probably made you very happy. Brown butter banana bread. So good. So you do have that delicious, amazing flavor of browned butter. Browning butter is so satisfying. Then it makes the whole kitchen smell incredible. So that is super fun. I am perfecting my technique to brown butter and how quickly I can do it. So that's kind of fun, a personal journey of mine, learning how to brown butter the best way possible. So you have brown butter, you have your regular banana bread necessities, and you have your bananas, and then you can throw in some walnuts. When I was younger, I didn't like nuts and things. Now that I am older, I want nuts in everything. I really just like the texture of having something crunchy in something like banana bread or cookies or brownies. I just think that is so good. Specifically walnuts. So good. So that being said, I did add extra walnuts, more than the recipe called for, but that was okay because it was just a little left in the bag that I had, and just might as well use it all up, because I wouldn't have been able to use the rest of what I had left in something because it wasn't enough. Does that make sense? I was very happy with my decision to add more walnuts. Let's just say that. It was super good. So I have a really big bread pan that I've used in the past, but I have problem baking the bread all the way through because it's just so big. Which it's good if you know how to like take care of that problem. But it's also kind of annoying because then you have to add on time to the banana bread, and then it's just like, what? I want banana bread, but it still has to like bake more because it's so goopy in the middle. And then you take it out and you cut it and you let it cool, and then, or you let it cool, then you cut it, and then it's so goopy in the middle, and it's just like, ah. So my solution for that is to get the mini bread tins at the grocery store. This is not an accurate representation of the size, but this is what I thought would work for the sign of a banana or a bread tin. They're very small. They usually come in packs of 3. So then that way you have 3 mini loaves and they bake through just fine. All is well. Oh, I remember another thing. One of the main things about this recipe is that it's originally muffins. What? So you might be wondering, why didn't you just make muffins? Muffins are fine. Muffins are great. And I would agree with you. But I was completely out of little liners, and I didn't want to have to deal with scrubbing out muffin tins. That's a very lazy reason to change it into bread. But it was a learning experience for me because I had to figure out how to convert a muffin recipe into a bread recipe, which is really not that hard. You just Google it because Googling is easy. But I can also tell you, it's you can decrease the temperature by 50 degrees. I saw some places say 25 degrees, but I decreased 50 degrees, and then you add on some time to it. I think the Google recommended that you up the time to around 50 to 60 minutes, but I think I went with about 45 because the bread tins were smaller, and I think in the end it ended up being in the oven for about 47-48 minutes. So obviously all ovens are different. Your oven is specifically your oven and works its own magical ways, so definitely don't take my word that those numbers are perfect, but that is how my oven worked. And it worked just fine. The bread was amazing. It was so good. We ripped through all of it very quickly because it's just so delicious. And then if you have 3 bread tins, if you want to give one away as a friendly gift, you can, because it's just so easy to be like, here, I have an extra loaf of banana bread for you. I made this for you. It's just a win-win situation all around. You can't go wrong. So yes, like I said, the link to the recipe will be in the show notes, so do not worry if you want to make this browned butter banana bread and enjoy that alliteration. It'll be in the show notes, so you can definitely check it out there. So I mentioned that I've been reading a lot this week, and I have been reading actual books, which I was not able to knit during, which is kind of unfortunate. But I did finish those actual books, so I could move on to electronic books so I could knit during them. But I finished 2 actual books this week. I say actual, you know what I mean. They're like physical, like you have to hold it open and you turn the pages. It's not like on an iPad or a computer. Those are actual books too, but it's not like a physical copy. You know what I mean. So yes, I had these 2 books that I had started and not finished, one of which I started back in January and still hadn't finished yet, but I did finish it in a day. I was less than halfway and then finished it in a day. It was that good. And then another book that I'd been working on, I don't know how long, but not nearly as long as that. So the one that I finished in less time, because I do have that book, is The Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. That rhymed. I wonder if she did that. She probably didn't do that on purpose, but it does rhyme. She is the author of the Court of Thorns and Roses series, which I've talked about before and really enjoyed and will be reading again in the future because apparently there's a 4th one coming out, which I didn't know about. This is her other series, so it's kind of like in the same realm, I guess. There were some similar things, like this, they had the same kind of like fairy people, and they had the same kind of like holidays, so, but the characters were not the same. This was very enjoyable. I didn't like it as much as I like the Court of Thorns and Roses, but there are like 6 or 7 books in this series, so I'm excited to read more of them. I am now waiting in line, a very long line, for the next one on the library website, but oh well, that's okay. Fantasy, action, kind of Hunger Games-y. It was very good. I really enjoyed it. So I don't know what the others are going to be like. We'll just have to wait and see. So yes, I did finish this one. Super good. The other one that I finished and absolutely loved, I do not have because I gave it to my mom to read because I knew that she would really enjoy it. It's called The Royal Nanny, and I do not remember who the author is, but it'll be linked in the show notes. You can also follow me or be my friend on Goodreads, and you can have a more up-to-date, step-by-step, not schedule, but just like an update of what I'm reading, because I update that all the time. It's called The Royal Nanny. It's the story of the governess or nanny who took care of, I have such a hard time getting these names straight because it's like, who is current, who was past, who is like the grandparents in the British royal family, I should say. The nanny to David and Bertie being the father of the current Queen Elizabeth II. Does that make sense? That line of people. So, yes, hopefully that made sense. And all of their siblings, which there are many of them, but it's about like her taking care of them and then all the rest of the siblings being born and her taking care of them and them growing up, and just her life dealing with them and the royal family and other events that happened in the royal family and how the nanny dealt with them. It was so good. It was just, so good. I believe that she was an actual person, and I believe that this is like a relatively true to fact, true to life historical fiction. I know that not all of it is true, but I do believe that a good amount of it is true, which I think is super cool. It made me laugh. It also made me cry. It was so good. It's also just super cool. I know I've talked about this before. Book rants. I do apologize. I do really appreciate and I really enjoy when I'm reading a book and I know that like some of these people actually lived and this actually happened and this is like true stuff. Not all of it is true. Some of it has been fictionalized to make it a little bit more like flowing in a good book style. Maybe, I don't know. It's just cool knowing that like these people actually lived and breathed and these things actually happened and this was real. This was super cool. I just really enjoy that. I don't know if you think that's cool. If you don't, that's super cool because you have your own book preferences. But I love that. I think that is super awesome and I really, really enjoy when I find a book like that and I'm like, yes, this is awesome. And then I get really wrapped up in the characters and then it's like, but these people were real and I'm like living in their lives right now and I'm experiencing all these things. It was also just a really well-written book. I also really like well-written books, as do a lot of people, so. This was kind of random, but it was about books, so, and that is one of the things that I talk about on this podcast, as I say at the beginning of this podcast. So yes, The Royal Nanny, I don't remember who it's by. but I highly, highly, highly recommend it if you're interested in learning more about the royal family, the British royal family. So good, so good. So I have another book that I have not yet started yet, but it is an actual another physical copy. This is, my mom and I kind of traded books. I gave her the Royal Nanny ones and Royal Nanny one, and she gave me this. So my sister found this book somewhere, or she heard about it, and so she read it first, and then she said it was amazing, so my mom got a copy. She read this book. She said she couldn't put it down. It was so good. It's called The Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, who, this is what, like, their good opinion of the book sold me on reading the book, but also who this person is and what he has done also sold me on this book, because he created Midsomer Murders and Foyle's War, which, like, I haven't seen Midsomer Murders, but we watched a lot of Foyle's War, and we love Foyle's War. So, if that is any indication about how good the book is, it's probably a good book. I don't really know. Now that I'm sitting here, I realize I haven't actually read the blurb on the back of the book. But my mom said it was very similar to like Agatha Christie or Dorothy Sayers or that kind of a book. It was that well written. And she also said that she had no idea who had done it until the very end of the book. Which, if you know me and my mysteries, that is a sign, that is what is just... If a mystery does not have that, I probably will not enjoy the mystery as much. If I have to keep on guessing until like the last 5 pages of the book, or whatever, you get my meaning, I will enjoy it that much more. So, my mom also said the mystery is very complicated because of the fact that some people... There were deaths, but obviously this is a murder mystery, and it's complicated. I also don't want to say too much lest this spoil anything. I don't know, because I haven't read it yet. But I'll let you know, because I think this is probably going to be a good book. Actually, not probably. I know this is going to be a good book. So, it's also, like, set in a disturbing, sleepy English village. And how can you say no to that? Can anybody say no to that? Because I can't, because that just sounds really great. And I'm sorry, I'm reading the back of the book right now, which I should do later. But anyway, so this is next on my to read list for sure, because yes, Magpie Murders. Also, really quickly, so this podcast is not too long, which is always a nice problem to have when you struggle to have content sometimes. Another book that I just started, which is an electronic copy from the library. It's called Address in the Window. I don't remember who it's by, but I will link it in the show notes, so don't worry. I'm confused as to how the chapters are divided up, because it's written from 3 different people's perspectives, and I don't know if it's like 3 people's perspectives in one chapter or what. I haven't figured it out yet, because I haven't read that much. But it's about 3 women. 2 of them are sisters. One of the women is one of the sisters' mother-in-law. One of the sisters has a daughter. They have 2 of them have been widowed. One of them, her fiance, boyfriend, person, they all died in either World War I or World War II. I don't remember which one it is. But, so they're all living together in a house. They are struggling to make ends meet. One of them is a very good seamstress. The other one is really good at drawing up patterns or designing clothes. And so I believe that the story is going to be like about them making that a successful business and making money to support their little family that they've created. So far, it's super good. I don't know how it's going to end. I've enjoyed it so far. I think the character development in the little bit that I've read is really great. And it's also something I can knit and read. So it's very enjoyable. It is very enjoyable. So yes, I will keep you guys updated on that as I read through it, and hopefully the knitting that I get done as I read through it. Again, that's called The Dress in the Window. I don't remember who it's by, but it'll be linked in the show notes to the Goodreads page, so you can check it out yourself. It's been a very long episode, and I'm very happy about that. I consider that a personal win on my part. Not that length determines whether or not a podcast is good or not. Did that make sense? That seemed like a lot of jumbled words. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. This has been a long episode. I haven't had a long episode in a while. So, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this rambling podcast. We had a lot of everything today, so if you're new, this is what the podcast is usually like. So, it doesn't always have every single segment that I talked about today, but this is generally what I talk about. Like I've said, show notes, links to everything will be in the show notes. If you would like to go and look at whatever I've talked about, that'll be linked down below if you're on YouTube, or if you're on my blog, everything will be down below. Also, like I said, all my various social medias will be linked in all the various places. I am most active on Instagram if you'd like to follow me on there. Like I also said, there is Goodreads if you'd like to see more regular updates on what I'm reading, progress, books that I want to read, all that kind of stuff. Goodreads is just really awesome. If you don't know what excuse me. I'm just so excited about Goodreads. My words are tumbling over each other. Like I was saying, if you don't know what goodness gracious, Goodreads is, it's like Facebook or Ravelry, if you know what that is, for books. It's just so good. And it is also super cool because it will tell you like ratings and people's comments and all that kind of stuff, but it will also tell you like how much it is on Amazon, or how much it is on Barnes & Noble, or any, like, a huge selection of places to buy books online, which I think is super cool. There's also ways to do that and see if libraries have it. That feature doesn't work as well, because I've tried that before. It doesn't always work. But the whole Amazon thing and the Barnes & Noble thing is super cool. I think you can actually link your Amazon account and your Goodreads account together, so you can see and compare buying books on Amazon, and then it somehow connects to your Goodreads and it adds them to your list or something like that. I'm not sure. I haven't done that yet, but sounds like a super cool feature that they have. I highly recommend getting a Goodreads if you're into books, into finding new books, looking at books, reading books, anything like that, and you don't have a Goodreads already. Because obviously then you wouldn't need to create another Goodreads. Because that wouldn't make sense. You get what I'm talking about. Highly recommend it. So that is it for this week's episode. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I hope you continue to have a wonderful weekend. If you have crafty plans, I hope that they are successful. I would like to have crafty plans this weekend. Actually, I mean, I always have crafty plans, but I hope that they are successful. I hope that I get reading done, but I don't know if that'll actually happen, which is totally fine because we have a fun weekend ahead of us, which includes celebrating my in-laws moving back into their house, which is super exciting. We're doing that tonight, and I'm gonna go bake some brownies after this, and I'm also making for them from scratch, which I don't think I've actually done before. Fun times. I will let you know how that turns out. I will probably have another recipe for you at the end for next week, if they turn out well. If they don't, and you don't hear about them, they were just kind of subpar or whatever. Hopefully they won't be, because they're celebration brownies, and nobody wants subpar celebration brownies, because that's relevant to the podcast. Anyway, on another note, like I said, thank you so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being subscribed, for liking, and all that other stuff, commenting. liking my Instagram pictures. I don't know. Thank you for being a part of this wonderful podcast community. I really appreciate every single one of you. And so with that, I see we've almost hit an hour, so we'll see how long it is after editing, but yay for long podcast episodes. I think that is all I have to say for this week. So I guess I'll see you guys next week. Bye!